Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Corona Spotlight 2020. I am your host, Gayle Nicholson, back for another episode. I want to ask you, before we even begin, if you're watching on Facebook, please let us know where you're watching from. Throw us some hearts. If you're watching this live stream on YouTube, again, let us know. Like to know that you're out there. Thank you so much. And today's guest is somebody that I have seen around Facebook, around the rooms, around the groups for a long, long time. And she's always got something extremely insightful to say. And I am very honored that she's agreed to join us today. Please help me welcome Miss Priscilla Stephan. This is Thank you so much for joining us today, Priscilla. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Gail. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today.
Wonderful. Now, you are billed as a sole strategist for visionary leaders. That's a pretty heady title. Um, what does that encapsulate for you?
Let's see. I would say that at the end of the day, everything comes down to soul. And I think that's really what we're looking for, a sense of richness and meaning and purpose in our lives more than ever. And so I really work with conscious women entrepreneurs and leaders and help them really connect to the soul of their work and give them the tools and the strategies based from the soul out to really create that soul level business and purpose that really lights them up. So everything is about the soul. And that to me is like you create it from the inside out.
That's wonderful. I like that a lot, very much so. Let me ask you this. I know you're also very intuitively led in your work. Can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of what that means?
Yes, and the good news is that everyone is intuitive, right? We all have that gut feeling, that sixth sense, that wow, I got to do this, or that pull. And I think that I truly believe that for all of us moving forward, that our intuition is going to be a major superpower, helping us navigate these realities and chaos and uncertainty, where we know, oh, this is going to be the way, or this is going to be the direction I've got to go in, or absolutely don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really learned to play and listen to my intuition after I learned about the Akashic records and became a reader of people's souls records in essence. And it really does help to develop your intuition, although just paying attention, noticing how you feel things, hear things, sense things, can really go a long way to really, it's just expanding your own awareness that's always been there. It's either we're either oblivious to it or more open to it.
Yeah, I find having talked to a number of people over the past 10, 20 years that intuition develops itself if we're willing to listen to it. And for many people, for some people, I should say, it strangely enough, and maybe an well, it could be just my small sample size making it seem bigger than it is. But for me, a lot of the times, people who are in recovery for addictions and stuff um, are highly intuitive people that have rejected that part of themselves, and they're actually looking for a way to shut up the voice in their head, in that drowning it in alcohol or drugs or whatever. So I don't necessarily know why I threw that in, other than to back up that we all have this power of intuition, and some of us pay attention to it and value it, and some of us try to avoid it or get away with it. And I would maintain life goes better when you are aware of it and try to use it to your advantage. Would you agree?
I would agree. It's really an incredible superpower. It's that awareness beyond what we can see. It's that sense of knowing. And it's available for us to use so we can have a better life, make more empowered choices. And I know that there are some of us that can come from that camp of, oh, I just use my logic and I use reason, and that's too woo. I don't understand. That doesn't work. That's not my thing. Well, the truth is that you have it already, like two pair of eyes and 2 feet. How are you going to use it? It's just a question of choice and getting familiar, leaning in, just practicing. It can be really, really cool what can come up.
Fabulous. Now, the whole thing that brings us together today is this whole coronavirus quarantine. All of us locked in our houses. We're no longer able to go to our classic formulation of networking meetings and getting people out
I
there,
know.
right? So it's been a shift for everyone. But you maintain that this is an opportunity for a lot of people. What do you mean by that?
Well, every situation always brings with it a challenge, a gift, and a challenge. And I'm definitely more of very much a realist and also an optimist at the same time. I guess I come from more that mystical, higher eagle perspective of that we are seeing now the cracks and the fault lines in our systems and in our structures and in how we perceive things. And my humble opinion is that we're moving more into a new consciousness in our society and an opportunity and awareness to look at how can we create a world that works for everyone, just not for the few. And where are there cracks in our systems and our processes and our ways of thinking that can take us more from an individual approach to a collective approach. And that is a mouthful, or even just like, ouch, like how would we even do that? And for me, that's definitely something that I ponder daily. And also the body of work that I developed around leadership and leadership archetypes is designed to help you ultimately decide. I think now is a great time where we're thinking, who do I want to be? What kind of a leader do I want to be? How do I want to show up? How can I take back my power and trust myself even more in my direction? Because I believe that no matter how affected we might be financially, emotionally, and we're all being affected by Corona, that we get to remember that we have power, we have choice, and that we're not at the mercy of the world or the circumstance. And if we looked at it from a different perspective, what is the opportunity here? What are the gifts? How can I use this to either pivot my business, to look at my personal power differently, to heal some old beliefs? It can still be an opportunity amidst the struggle and the suffering and the discomfort to come out brighter, ahead, and more powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Now, you maintain that there's four key questions that you can ask yourself that would actually help navigate these times and amplify the best part of you. You want to talk about a little bit about those questions?
Yes, and I wrote them down, and that's definitely something that if you guys want, you can download from my website for free. It's a little PDF that you can print out or download onto your phone that can just bring you back to yourself and to your power. So the first question is, imagine whatever the situation, you can think of Corona or even more drill down beyond that. So what is the situation really asking for? So that's the first question. What do I need to consider, ponder, be aware of, right? The second question is, what's being revealed in my life or career right now? So what are you noticing? Maybe there's cracks in the system. Maybe there's faulty communication. Maybe there's, better money tracking that can happen. Maybe there's an overflow of team or too little team. The third question is, what type of leader do I need to be in this situation? And that goes for anything in your family, with your kids, with your spouse, with your work, with your communities. And the fourth question is, if I fully trusted myself, what would be my next step? Really trusting yourself, because sometimes we're like, oh, that wouldn't be possible. Nobody would like this. People are going to think I'm crazy. But if you trusted that inner knowing, or if you trusted that you can see beyond, like have that eagle eyes, not just the rabbit, I channel this, like, let's be the eagle here. Let's have a bigger perspective while being like the rabbit too. Let's be aware of the reality that's on the ground. And also let's look beyond this reality and then look at, well, what would be my next immediate step? And then if that's all that we know, because nobody knows what, next week or next month or next year is going to look like anyway. So what is that one next step that you can take that feels inspired, aligned, and true for you?
Oh, I love that last part. Love that. What's that next right thing? What's that one next step? I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. That's how I made it through my first divorce.
Yes.
Because you have all of these, urges to act out and, just be this flaming banshee. And it's like, okay, no, what is the next right thing to do? And that kept me out of so much trouble.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's that thing about, I also equate it to, I didn't go through a divorce, thankfully. I'm happily married, but, we've all gone through horrible breakups, right? Or being fired, or like awful times in life. And sometimes it's that phrase, just one step in front of the other, right? One little moment by moment choice, And if that's it, moment to moment, second by second, hour by hour, then that's what it takes,
Right.
just we don't need to think that far out. Like we can think of the ego, but sometimes all we can do is, okay, I need food, I need this is all I'm going to do, and that's great.
Yeah, and
That's
when that's
fine.
done, then we make a new choice.
And then we make a new choice,
Yeah.
right? Every few seconds we can say, okay, I'm going to choose this, and I'm going to keep choosing this.
Yep, absolutely. I while we're on this little tangent, though, I feel like this is a very, very vital part of what they talk about with law of attraction manifestation and stuff like that, that often gets glossed over or missed because it's not just, and I think this is where law of attraction gets a bad rap. It's not just about sitting there and imagining what wonderful life that you would love to have. It's that, and then when you get an intuition on something to take action on, taking that next right action, because even though it doesn't necessarily, this little step isn't going to lead you to the goal, right? It might even look like it's going in the opposite direction, but that step leads you to another step that takes you back towards what you're, and you have to trust because you can't see it directly down the road through that action, but you, in trusting and stepping out on that next right step, eventually you do get there. um, and you'll never get there if all you're doing is sitting on a cushion imagining what it would be like. It can't.
No, it's the energy, the mindset, and the action. And it's ultimately through the action that the doorways open up, right? Because it's in being courageous, to do following those crazy ideas. That's why I tell people, like, follow those crazy ideas. They're the best ones. I moved to California from New York with one suitcase. It was just on a trial basis. I'm like, it's a crazy idea, but I know it's the right idea, and it's the right time for that idea. I think timing can be important. And it can just be really magical because we don't know everything. Gosh knows, we've all had miracles, crazy good things happen to us that we could never have predicted. And that's the beauty of life, right? It's not predictable. If anything, that's what we're feeling now. Everything is unpredictable.
Right.
And that's just kind of going with that flow can be really helpful. What if it turns out better than we imagined, right? What if we are willing to at least give it a shot? We might just be surprised. Even in times like these, and especially in times like these, it's really like, what are you expecting, intending, and in the best sense of the word, because good is still available. Abundance and prosperity and opportunity, that didn't go away. Resources are still available. But it may not come from the containers and the structures and the places that we may have relied upon or traditionally think to go to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what do you think would be the greatest skill that we could invoke right now? What can we use of
Our
our.
self-trust and our intuition. And I really believe, like for me, what is framing this whole corona situation is, and maybe it's because of the line of work that I do, is really, what is this situation illuminating for me in my life and in my career, right? It's one of the questions. And how will this lead us to a better world? because that's where I think it's taking us. It's a genuine belief within myself, and I know it might be harder to navigate this current circumstance if you're being affected a lot more than I am, financially or otherwise. But also, I really take it like this is taking us to a better place. Yes, there's suffering and there'll be breakdowns and hardship for everyone to different degrees. But if I see this as a stepping stone to a greater world where things will have to change and are changing, that just makes me not get bogged down in that rabbit view of, oh my gosh, the world is ending. Well, maybe as we know it is, and maybe that's not a bad thing, So that's what frames it for me. So I see it as a stepping stone to something greater, not a stepping stone to the end.
Excellent, excellent. And I would like to kind of underscore that in that if your mindset is this is the end of the world as we know it and it's horrifying. Where's my security? Where's my familiarity? Where's my same? Where's my comfort? You're liable to be creating something that you really don't want to be creating. But if you can discipline your mindset into, oh, this is the end of that world, that's awesome. What's possible now? What can we create? How can we do, world 2.0 and make it better? My idea is that you're going to be creating a much better world, something that you want to be a part of.
Yeah, I think just to stay open and look, it's human nature, right? We're all triggered in different ways. We want a sense of survival and security, and that's so to be honored. And we feel grief and we feel all of these emotions, and I'm not taking away any of that. The struggle and the suffering is very real. And even for those that aren't as deeply affected, we are feeling it collectively, especially for empaths and more intuitive and highly sensitive, which I think most of people might be here. So we're all feeling it. And I think this is one of the great benefits is that we're looking that, look, there's more that unites us than that what separates us. A different paradigm or different ways of doing things have to, because we're seeing some things that we can't just accept and say this is just not okay. People are dying or people are suffering and we should have better systems to help them and so ultimately though, if there's nothing you take from today is if we can't rely on the government, if we can't rely on handouts, if we can't rely on anyone, what can we rely on? And this was what a colleague of mine just said, we can rely on our own ability to create, which brings back to our own sense of sovereignty, of self-governance, of how can I use my own personal power and sense of personal authority to actually create something new and that's where intuition and inviting God, spirit, universe, whatever you call it, to inspire you and lead you into an idea or an opportunity to maybe create something that will support you and maybe your colleagues or your community, because sometimes innovation does come from this sense of pressure, like diamonds, right? So
yeah, they say that what is it? Something is the mother of invention. I can't remember what.
Oh yes, I've heard that a million times now.
Necessity is the mother of invention. Yes.
It is, and sometimes when I did a lot of Tony Robbins, years a decade ago, and he always said, that the worst place we can be is comfortable, right? Because comfort does not, as delicious as comfort can feel like, it's not a space where we actually get to move our butts. There's no sense of urgency or pressure. Right? There's no pain there enough to get us to move our butts and to do something different. So now we're feeling the pain. And so that's forcing us to look at different options and different opportunities. Things that I think we had put on the back burner are now we're reassessing. And I think one of the greatest things that we are reassessing is what really matters most to me and to my family. Like when I cut out, the pursuing all the financial stuff and traveling to all the places and getting all the cars, there's nothing wrong with that, but like what really matters to me, what kind of a life do I really want to lead? I think that's a good thing to be pondering. It's great to have more questions than we have answers for right now. Keep asking the questions, because that will get you to connect to your personal power and what matters most to you. And leadership isn't about an obligation. We don't have to change the world today or for everyone. We get to define what making a contribution and what living a life of meaning and authenticity really means to us. Mm-hmm. And that's where going within is the key. In spite of everything, nice. we always have personal power and choice, and that never goes away.
Awesome. Now, as a leadership coach, which I know you are, you yes. often talk on your other stuff about a 360 win. What exactly do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, it goes back. It's about a mindset, really. I think that's how I would define it. It's a mindset where your choices are informed by the question of how can everyone benefit from my choices. So 360 win is choices where everyone benefits. So starting with you, your company, your business, your organization, your community, and the planet. Because right now, sometimes we can work really hard or we can help the greater good, but then we're burned out. So we're not winning. It's like creating that win-win-win, right? Or a company can be really profitable, but it's polluting the planet. So the planet isn't winning. So how can we create systems and structures and connections and communities and cultures where everyone wins? And that is really the question, because then we go from just, oh, I'm going to do this to make a buck or to help my family. But, sorry, I'm not going to think about anyone else. It really is about thinking more about the collective good and the we versus just the me. It's the me and the we. It's like all of us.
Okay. It's the me we win. Mm-hmm.
We all win. Yes. We all come out better off. And there's a ripple effect, a multiplier effect that comes from that. That's really cool.
That's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, I do recommend that everybody who's listening and watching with us today reaches out to your website, www.priscillastephan.com, and then download those 4 questions. Put them on your screensaver on your phone or your splash screen wallpaper, whatever the case may be. Print it out and put it up on your wall. Because those are really good questions to bring you back around and ground you into your own leadership, your own sovereignty, and allow you to regroup and keep moving forward as the individualized leader that you are. No matter what, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Priscilla, but no matter what your role in life, you're a leader to someone, right? Whether it's your children, whether it's people who you don't even know are looking up to you on on Facebook. So, use that to make your own experience of life better. Would you disagree?
And I would 100% agree. I think you said that so beautifully. And we are always, all of us, leaders of our own lives, whether we want to take on and be aware of that responsibility or not. We're still always leading ourselves first. And we're always contributing to other people. In my body of work, leadership is defined as contribution, and we're always contributing, right, to someone, and like you said, in ways that we aren't even fully aware, right, of how we're doing that. So
as my dear old mother used to say, you can live your life as an example or as a warning. Which do you choose?
Ooh, ouch. That is very true. And there is an upcoming quiz in a couple of weeks so that you can identify your soul fluent leadership archetype, and which is your natural way of leading and the gifts and the opportunities that brings. So that should be up in a couple of weeks. So if you sign up for questions on my website, that will be coming on soon, and that's something that will be available if you're interested in the couple more weeks. We're just putting it all together now.
I'll be looking forward to that. That sounds interesting. Very interesting. I love archetypes. I love, all of that kind of stuff. That's really cool to me. All right. So do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
Yes. Take it a day at a time. Trust yourself and be the eagle and the rabbit. Be aware of what you need to do day to day on the ground to keep things going and to move your life, and also have a bigger picture and know that you always have choice in how you choose to lead your life and what you create.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with me today, Priscilla. I do appreciate your presence and what you contribute to the world so much.
Thank you.
Have a great week. We'll talk to you
Bye,
all soon.
everyone. Bye.
When you open yourself up to actual energy work, makes that recovery progress so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.